Okay, so we are live.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Caravan. My name is Ishan Sharma, and today's session, as you all know, is titled Kings, Company, and Communities, Andhra-Telengana in 18th century India. And the speaker for the day is G. Naga Sridhar, Dr. Naga Sridhar. In a nation that is slowly losing touch with its history, Caravan, the Heritage Exploration Initiative, is an independent initiative started by undergraduate history students, and it aims at reviving the love for India's heritage and history. The idea behind Caravan is to promote knowledge of history among young minds and the general audience at large, and to inspire them to be inquisitive and committed to this field of inquiry, as well as to make people understand the importance of history and heritage. We aim to take academic history to the common man through online platforms like YouTube. And since 2020, we have been hosting online lectures, conversations with scholars, writers, authors on our platform, giving students and general audience a chance to interact with them and trying to start a dialogue on our past, which I think is essential in the times that we live in. And to sustain Caravan, we continuously need support from the public and institutions. So if you are an institution or somebody who wish to support Caravan financially, please get in touch with us through email, because we really need support to sustain ourselves. Moving ahead, today's session, King's Company and Communities, Andhra, Telangana in 18th century India, and I hope I'm audible. Yeah, I think I am. So, the 18th century in India was a landmark period that, as it witnessed a number of cross currents of changes happening, including the transformations of states, social groups, and economic context, and heralded the beginning of the colonial period in India. So, grasping the regional differences of the century is crucial not only to our understanding of the history of India, but also the dynamics of colonialism, how it worked, how it functioned. And the book King's Company and Communities, Andhra Telangana in 18th century India, is the first book of its kind that analyzes the social, the economic, the political formations of the Andhra Telangana region at a crucial juncture where they were put to the test by the manifestations of the colonial rule. And to talk about this, we have the author of the book, Dr. G. Naga Sridhar, who is a financial journalist working with the business line, The Hindu. He's a passionate researcher and a teacher of history. As I said, he's currently senior deputy editor with the Hindu group, and he, after obtaining his PhD from University of Hyderabad, he taught there as well as at the Central University of Karnataka and at Osmania University, Hyderabad. His research interest lies in medieval and modern Indian history, especially social and economic history, the notion of caste and its implications, and also business history. He has so far published over a dozen research papers in various reputed international and national journals, and has also participated in various national and international conferences world over. So it is truly an honor welcoming our speaker for the day, Dr. G. Naga Sridhar. Thank you so much, Dr. Sridhar, for accepting this invitation on a very short notice. And we were trying to do this, but we couldn't fix up a date. But finally, you are here. Such an honor it is to host you on Caravan. Thank you so much once again, and welcome to Caravan. Yeah, you have to unmute.
Ishan, thank you, Ishan. It's very nice of you. In fact, I'm quite happy about the initiative of Caravan and how youngsters like you are trying to take forward the beacon of history. Because, as you rightly said, in today's political and social context, history as a discipline needs to be properly taught, and it should be decimated. And this kind of platforms will definitely help, and it will also make people more aware of what is happening. So, and also at the outset, I thank you for inviting me. I was pleasantly surprised when I saw your message on the Twitter Okay, it's good that we are in touch, and thanks for inviting. So, friends, good evening, one and all. So, the kind introduction, thanks to Ishan for that kind introduction. See, the main motive for this special lecture is, as he rightly said, a book of mine which has been published by the Primus Books, the Ratnasagar publications, the Primus Books. In fact, I had a good PowerPoint, but of course, the technology always takes over sometimes, so it didn't work, getting delayed. So, this is the book for those who could not see this. So, without any PowerPoint, I will give you points. Okay, there are powerful points without PowerPoint today. So, friends, I'm sure some of you are definitely the students of history and also scholars of history. And I'm also sure that there could be some general audience who are passionate about history. Let me tell you, let me talk about the country, region, and history in 18th century. Precisely, friends, as Ishan rightly observed, this is a period of transition from medieval to modern. Of course, the higher academics were calling it as late medieval and early modern now, 18th century and 17th and 18th centuries. So, broadly, precisely, let me set the context for the discussion today that we have a lot of works that have been written on 18th century. Okay, right from the traditional works, which deal with the decline of Mughals, the famed or rather iconic J.N. Sarkar, Jaduna Sarkar's works on history, and of course, a lot of colonial historians and very respectable names like Irfan Habib, Satish Chandra, Arthur Ali, the Aligarh School of Historians. There has been a lot of work. In fact, it has been a much swallowed debate. But I was just reading long back. It was observed by I think Satish Chandra that 18th century was it was like a pregnant with possibilities. There were so many cross currents and so many developments that are interwoven into this century. And friends, the latest trend in history is to localize the research, because broad generalizations have already been done by the great historians. They have first started writing about broad generalizations about the Mughals or colonialism, but now it's the time now that people are taking up the regional studies. Going local is actually global now, right? And everywhere, whether even in news, for example, if you read New York Times, I will tell you, there's a lot of local news there in the papers, okay? Or even you see social media, the locality now matters. And history, it is also very much true. Micro studies, regional studies, new exploration of sources, and new researches are the need of the hour. And friends, there have been many works on 18th century region-wise. I can give you some examples. For example, C.A. Bailey, yes, he has done on Bengal. We have Professor Muzaffar Alam, who had also done on Bengal and Bihar regions. Then we do have Andre Rink, who had done on Maratha. The land sovereignty, the concept of Vatan, very beautiful analysis. We have Chetan Singh, who had done on Punjab, right? And we do have, a variety of works that are written on different regions. And friends, in this genre of writings, what is missing out is the Andhra and Telengana region. Okay, so the broad studies on this topic, 18th century, can be divided into two ways, classified. One are the old school studies would say that the 18th century was a dark age because of the decline of the Mughals and the wars and all that. Of course, Jaduna Sarkar to even Professor Irfan Habib or Saban, all these people, either using the word dark age or without using it, subscribe to this view that there was some kind of turmoil in the 18th century because of the fabulous Mughal Empire had collapsed. There could be some kind of disturbance and wars and all that. I'm not going into detail, so you can ask me some questions if you want to do on this further. And friends, from C.A. Bailey to Andre Rink, and also Chetan Singh and all these, some of the regional studies you take up, this is a kind of revisionist approach where the 18th century developments, local developments are being looked at with a new type of sources. Okay, so in fact, the study of Bajars on Bengal, as done by C.A. Bailey, is very interesting because he was the first, historian who actually brought this revisionist approach to 18th century studies. And he also talks about urbanization, rural come urban. Now government is also talking about urban development if you are following economy and news, properly. So the thing is that we may have some kind of problem at the big, cities level, but the rural economy or the local economy was vibrant. That is the fundamental, hypothesis which is being tested out. At the same time, you extend this to political issues also. We may have the decline of the Mughals, but the local political potentates and the regional states, not only Hyderabad, not only Bengal, not only but we also have other regional political potentates like local rajas and sultanats. They have become quite vibrant at this point of time. So that is the fundamental thing. And the third point is how are we, ascertaining the influence of English East India Company or the European intercourse with Indian history. That is also one more aspect. So precisely my talk today or the gist of my books broadly falls into this. And what is new in this? You might simply ask me what is new in this. There have been some books written, but friends, the new thing is the kind of sources I have identified. You might have come across a very interesting book called Textures of Time. Sanjay Subramanyam, Wales Chandra, and David Schulman. These are the scholars who Richard M. Eaton, Social History of the Deccan. Very wonderful book where he takes into consideration the folklore and oral interpretations and bring in the analysis of the social history. Very interesting book you might have come across. Social History of the Deccan. He examines about 8 lives of people depending on the popular sources. Okay, so I just extended this approach for use which can be classified predominantly sections. First of all, Chatakas are taken 100. There are always not Chatakas. There are also more, sometimes more than 100, sometimes less than 100, but it is more symbolic. Now, why these Shatakas are important for us to understand the nature of Andhra and Telengana society, economy, politics at this point of time? These have come up from the popular culture. These are not written by the dominant source. These are not written by the kings or writers who are patronized by the kings, but people like me who are just interested in capturing the local developments. They are the people who wrote. There are a good number of Shatakas. For example, we have Simhadri Narsingha Shatakam. We have a Shatakam called Govalachana Shatakam, which was actually written by a shepherd. We have I almost collected about 10 to 12 Shatakas like this, which are written in the 18th century, first half as well as second half of the period. And I try what they are talking about the European influences, what they are talking about the wars, what they are talking about the popular perceptions, whether they are talking about poverty or whether they are talking about prosperity. What are they talking about caste, how the notions of caste were being changed. So these Shatakas provided a very, very good understanding. I will be telling you what are the key conclusions in a while. At the same time, there are 3 more important Telugu texts. One is called Hamsa Vimsati, which is a stories of a swan. Actually, this is a proper 18th century text. Towards the end of the 17th century, we have another Telugu text which is called Sukha Saptasati. These are collection of stories, erotic stories, of course. But the point is, it has a lot of social and economic information. So Hamsa Vimsati was an 18th century text written by somebody called Ayyavaradu Narayana Macha, and Sukha Saptasati was written by somebody called Kadiripati. There is one more text which I used for the first time, that is Sudra Kamalakaram. Sudra Kamalakaram, written by one Kolluri Kamasastri. Friend, this book was published in 1798. one of the oldest book that is preserved in Rajamentry, and this has almost all data of the preceding century, of the 18th century, though it was published on the crux of the threshold of the 19th century. Okay, so social and economic information. Sudra Kamalakaram talks about Varna system and how the new occupations or new castes have come. What are the perceptions of Varna that were happening at this point of time, and how European influence, because Andhra was the first testing ground actually for French and the English to try the interventionist policies, to enter into the local disputes of the kings and taking sides and all that. In fact, it's like a puppet show. We are the puppets, they are the masters, but they fought through us. That means Nizam and Arcot. I don't want to go into the political history now, but so these are the broad sources that I have used. Of course, we can't get away with the sources like Persian sources and English history company. I also consulted these sources for this work. And finally, friends, the new thing that we are trying to say here is that the potential use of Telugu literature has really got the ability to test many hypotheses from a popular perception. In fact, I also have consulted some of the family history of the businessmen. I will tell you one example. There is a business family in Andhra, which is called an Arikadamelli family. They are very old. They have businesses from end of 17th century. So luckily I could get access to their account books and all that. It was amazing experience as a researcher, and it was actually giving us details. What is the trade? How are they paying? What are the exchange system? Whether there is trade or not? How is the price comparison? Very well preserved data. So this I have used for the economic analysis also, of course. Then I have also seen the family histories of some of the local.
I think there is some internet issue with Dr. Sridhar. Dr. Sridhar, you are on mute. There was some internet issue from your end. Can you start from the family history part?
Is that fine now?
Yeah, it is fine.
Yeah. So I was sorry for that, and I was also collecting this family history of the chieftains, local chieftains, Raja of Vijayanagara, Pusapati Vamsavali. These are written, of course, in Telugu. So, friends, this kind of variety of sources is a very interesting thing that given me a lot of new insights into this. And now I just want to share what are the findings of this. I told you why the study has to be done in Andhra and Telangana, because in 18th century there is no such work with this paradigm. Second, we also understand that there is a need to expand our gamut of sources and the vortex of analysis that has been done. And now let me come to the conclusions. What are the findings? First of all, friends, the first point itself is we can clearly say that the local sources, whether they are Telugu here or whether they are Bengali in somewhere or Gujarati in somewhere or Kannada somewhere, okay, or Marathi, we actually the work, my research gives enough evidence to say that these are very potent sources that we can use for understanding of our local histories, which will help us to arrive at some broad generalizations about all India scenario. That is point number one. Point number two, coming to political developments in Andhra and Telangana, this is the period when the local political potentates, these Rajas, Samsthanam chiefs, Vijayanagaram, Bobbili, Vanaparthi, Gadwal, there are many Samsthanas, local Rajas. These people were trying to negotiate for power. On one hand, with the French and the English later. On the other hand, they were also trying to negotiate with Hyderabad Nizam. So it's kind of a negotiation for power. So so many small battles and skirmishes that has happened in the 18th century history, Andhra and Telangana show this. Next point. These local political potentates or leaders are accepted by the people in the place of new big kings, old big kings. For example, a remote village in Andhra or in Telangana, of course, Telangana Nizam is paramount. That's a different thing. Because by the middle of the 18th century, northern sarkars went on to initially French then English. Hyderabad and Telangana, part of Karnataka, continue to be under Nizam. So there is a bifurcation here. But especially in Andhra, local people have always seen the local potentates as natural leaders, and they even started. That's a new thing which we can find. Earlier, we have only big rulers and big kings who are quite well known, but not many people would know who is the big king now. The local leader is the local king, and they are the natural leaders. Next important aspect is in economy, friends. I have done a lot of data. In fact, I know the PowerPoint would have given you, but in a way it's better. I can simplify that. In economy, we see 2-3 interesting trends. First of all, there has been a lot of references in the Telugu literature as well as East India Company records that continuous trade and commerce was happening at the local level. See, there were occasional disturbances. For example, in the Carnatic wars time, there could be a problem, or immediately in the beginning of 18th century in Hyderabad, we have a local leader who is called Sarvai Papana. Richard M. Eaton calls him this as social banditry in a very interesting way. So there were some disturbances in the transition period, but otherwise, the local level trade and commerce or the networks were intact. Telugu literature, in fact, says that the Hamsa Vimsati says it describes the household of farmers, how rich they are, how prosperity was there in the villages. So we can't totally subscribe to an argument that 18th century was a dark age just because Mughals have collapsed. We just need to identify the local and regional aspects. Next important point is Telangana and Andhra. Friends, there are strong economic linkages between Telangana and Andhra. In fact, they have started even in the 17th century. Machilipatnam port, the prosperity of Andhra, which was seen in the Machilipatnam port, the hinterland support came from Telangana, which is not properly highlighted, unfortunately. So there is a lot of things we can say that Telangana and Andhra, in fact, worked in unison as far as the economy is concerned. There were emergence of new urban centers in Andhra. Of course, Hyderabad is a big city. We all know. Even in that time, it's a cultural, economic, and political capital. But we have Hindupur. We have Bhimilipatnam. We have Vizagpatnam. Not Machilipatnam. Machilipatnam is anyways there. So there are emergence of new urban centers, not urban centers, which again point out to the continuation of the economic activity. Then the third point is, friends, the proof for economic activity as well as agriculture is very simple. If French and English are trying to get hold of this region, especially of Andhra, it is because of their economic gains. East India Company or French company or any European trading company will never venture to any place if they are not getting any benefit. Okay, so 18th century, the local and rural economy actually points out to urban development, and that is another pointer I would like to make. Friends, coming to society, there are very interesting things. In fact, there are new occupations irrespective of caste because of the financial issues. Sudra Kamalakaram, the text which I have consulted, Telugu text. In fact, I can, with full confidence, I can claim that I was the first person to get hold of the text. It clearly says now the Shudras who were looked down upon earlier have become the most important people, and Brahmins, now there are Shudra Brahmins. In fact, the wording is very interesting. It says now there are Shudra Brahmins, and Brahmins have become cooks and Vanta Brahmins. There is a concept in Andhra. I think obviously this corresponding categories will also be there in other parts of India. That cooks, some of the Brahmins started functioning as cooks as an occupation. These are called Vanta means cooking in Telugu. Vanta Brahmins, it talks about Vanta Brahmins and a new class of people again called Dubasis. Dubasis who are translators precisely. So they have also come up. They are comparable to scribes. In early medieval India, because of the land grant economy, we have the emergence of Kayas in UP, then Mahatras in Rajasthan, in the similar Karanams in South. In the similar way, we do have Dubasis. This is simply because of the European influence and the language need for language translation. So friends, we can definitely see a reassertion of caste identities in Andhra or Telangana at this point of time. The so-called contempt towards lower varnas was going, and lower varnas also now they are more confident. They have higher self-esteem because, of course, they are the people who are doing the most useful works in the economy at the end of the day. Okay. Then another interesting thing is position of women, and the societal habits. The Satakas talk a lot about the interest in handkerchiefs. Interest in handkerchiefs. Handkerchiefs we are not using earlier. In fact, most of the people don't use handkerchiefs now also. I have observed. They will simply put their hands in the pocket. In pants, it is just, it doubles up as a handkerchief. So, but friends, handkerchiefs were not known to India this way. In fact, I have seen today, somebody, sent me some WhatsApp. The most lovable towel is mother's saree. In the world, people just see if mother is there, want to wash hands out, then we'll, do this. So friends, handkerchiefs were very popular. The people actually wanted to look for the European handkerchiefs. Tobacco was also becoming popular, especially the European cigars were also, people were looking for it. These are the information that we get to know from the literature. And women. The women were also subjected to some kind of influences. In fact, there is a very interesting book which is little later than 18th century, but in social sciences, friends, in history, society will not change in 100 years or 10 years or 50 years. If 15 years, I mean to say. So even if it is something is written in say 10 years later than 18th century, we can try to see if the conditions prevailed in that period. This Radhika Swantanam is a very interesting book written by an author called Buddhu Palani. She talks about how the sexual freedom is important for women. It's amazing. It's amazing. At that point of time, a woman writer was talking about women's freedom in all aspects, including sensuality. So definitely the society was under influence of diverse things. The European culture, where Europeans are roaming freely in India, trying to get trade and political power. Then we do have, of course, the syncretic influence of Hinduism and Islam, the syncretic culture. So the court culture and Persian culture, Mahfil culture at Hyderabad. So there are interesting cultural influences that we can see at this point of time. And finally, friends, this is the time when we have the actual distancing of development in Andhra and Telangana regions. Because the moment Andhra had gone to Northern Sarkars have gone to, English East India Company finally, after this Anglo-French Carnatic wars, Northern Sarkars and Andhra region started moving on. The so-called modern development, of course, because of the British interaction, East India Company would need people who are educated, whereas Telangana continued to be in the old traditional monarchy mode. Okay, so in fact, that development difference is seen till post-independent time. That's the reason for Telangana movement and all that. Even before that, we see a difference. Whether you take literacy or whether you take education, you take other things. There is a divergence between Telangana and Andhra cultures, and this originated in a more clear, pronounced form from the 18th century. So precisely, friends, without boring you much, these are the main points I would like to put forth. So Ishan, over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sridhar. And those are some wonderful points that the main point is a new kind of historiography or history writing which focuses on regional developments rather than think India as a megalith. So we must go into
Yeah.
the shorter. This was something that was propagated by late BP Sahu, Bharivi Prasad Sahu of Delhi University, when he wrote a book called Changing Gaze, where he focused on the importance of regional histories for the very first time, probably the first time in Indian history. But I think it gives a good pretext to the developments that happened in this region, especially in Hyderabad and other cities of Andhra-Telengana region as we know it today. So, and you also mentioned some sources that are new and were never used by scholars earlier, especially the family, histories and others of the chieftains, and then the status of women, the notion of caste in this area. So you get this whole socio-economic political development of a region, which I think now is very important, because Hyderabad and this region has become this IT hub after Bangalore. It's the IT hub of India, so it really plays a big role in economy of India today, and it's rather interesting to go into history. And I'm looking forward to my copy of the book that I hopefully receive soon, and,
Definitely.
and then
Yes, and
yeah.
this morning I posted.
Yeah. So thank you so much for this, and I'll just show our people the cover of the book again. And if you want to talk about this painting, Dr. Sridhar.
Yeah, yeah, of course. It is actually Nizam with the local chieftains around him. The seventh Nizam, but it's not 18th century picture, but it has been identified as symbolic of how kings, the top king like Nizam and others are always themed. So that is the purpose of this. It's
Yeah.
not an 18th century picture. In fact, somebody was pointing out to me that the book is on 18th century. Why are you using this picture? But that is a justification. Of
So
course, publisher also suggested this.
yeah, so it is just a representation of the kind of relation that existed between the Nizam and
Kings.
the chieftains.
Chieftains.
And I hope people will read this, because it is available on Amazon now. It is available on Primus books, and Primus is known for publishing great quality academic books. So rest assured, do read it. Do send your reviews to Karma.
Sorry to interrupt,
Yeah,
Isha.
yeah.
I think it's not yet available on Amazon. I
Hmm.
think on their portal only. But they have some
Okay,
issue with
so people can get it directly from the publisher,
they get to
from
the
Primus.
website, portal and buy.
Yeah. And do read it. Do send your reviews to us at Carvan. Our email ID is carvanheritage@gmail.com. We'll love to know what you think about the book. You can also tag Dr. Sridhar on Twitter if you find this book interesting. Share your reviews with him on Twitter, on email, and we would love to know. So thank you so much, Dr. Sridhar, for giving this presentation.
Thank
Uh,
you, Isha.
and I look forward to having you again once I go through the book. I would love to have an in-depth conversation with you about the book. That we'll definitely do. This was a kind of introduction of a much. I think this book needed a platform, because I was really impressed by the hypothesis that is there in the, in the book description on Primus webpage. So I really was looking forward to it, and I am looking forward to it as soon as I get the book. And I
Thank you,
request
Isha.
all of you to get the book, to read it, and to also send your reviews, as I said. Thank you so much, Dr. Sridhar. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Isha, for providing this wonderful platform. And thanks as a student and teacher of history. I'm really thankful for doing this kind of initiative. And that too, coming it from a young mind like you, it's really gratifying.
Thank you so
Thank you
much,
very
Dr.
much. Thank you
Sridhar.
very much.
And thank you so much, everybody, for joining in. There was a short delay because of some technical issues. Because we are living in digital age, such issues are bound to happen, and we kind of have to deal with it every time. And you all can support Carvan. We have posted a link in the YouTube live chat. If you are on WhatsApp group of Carvan, we have sent those link in the group. If you are not a part of Caravan updates group, the link is in the description so that you'll get all the notifications, all the event updates in the group itself. So you do not have to wander around where to find about Caravan. And also, now speaking of our future events, we have a list of sessions that we have planned for you in June. I'll read those out for you, and you can also check it out on our Instagram page if you are on Instagram. So today was the first lecture of June by Dr. Sridhar on King's Community and Company and Andhra Telengana in 18th century India. The next is on 13th June, we have Dr. Salif Simons talking about renewing the medieval authority, power, and dynastic continuity in colonial Mysore at 8 p.m. India time. On 15th June, 5 p.m. India time, I'll be in conversation with Aanchal Malhotra, one of India's youngest oral historians, on her recent book In the Language of Remembering. On 16th June, I have Dr. Shivani Sood joining me on Caravan at 8 p.m. to talk about from Rome to Rajasthan, European paintings and Jaipur's perspective paintings in the long 18th century. On 20th June, which also happens to be my birthday, at 4 p.m., we are going to host Dr. Chitralekha Zutshi talking about one of the most talked about regions of India, Kashmir, narrating the history of Kashmir by Dr. Chitralekha Zutshi. On 22nd June, we will be announcing the Caravan Book Prize long list, which was, we had a jury of 9 historians who are behind this selection of 10 books, which made it to the long list. And now the shortlist jury is working to announce the results in September. On 24th June, we have Dr. Sharmistha Roy Chaudhary talking about the Great War, origins, outcomes, and forgotten histories of World War I. On 26th June, we have widowhood debates in colonial India, reformist, nationalist, and the feminist in perspective by Jyoti Atwal. On 28th June, which is the last session of this month, we have Dr. Raghav Kishore at 5 p.m. IST talking about the making of colonial Delhi, urban planning and policy failure in late 19th century city. So we have a great lineup, a big lineup for all of you. All these sessions are available for free and are in public domain, which is one of the biggest goal of Caravan, to make history accessible to the general audience. But in making so, we really need financial support to sustain Caravan, because Zoom and other things uh, require a little bit of money. So we request all of you to be part of Caravan. Our membership is about 85 rupees a month, which is cheaper than a cup of coffee. So please subscribe to Caravan's YouTube channel. You also get some benefits that you become part of our Caravan book club and a music club and a film club, where we discuss lots of books, lots of films, and wonderful music. So do consider subscribing it. Donation is open for another 3 days, so you can support if you want. That's all from my side. I'll meet you again on 13th June for another session. Have a great evening, everybody.
Thank you, Ishan. Thank you, everyone.